Right now, millions of Americans are about to face something we haven't seen in over 2 decades. A winter storm so massive, so unprecedented, that hurricane hunters are being deployed. Yes, you heard that right. Hurricane hunters. In winter, that has never happened before. The latest data just came in 30 minutes ago, and what I'm seeing will affect your life this weekend. Whether you're in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, or the Carolinas, listen carefully. This is not a drill. Over 70 million Americans are now under winter storm watches. That's stretching from Arizona all the way to Virginia, Dallas, Houston, Charlotte. Entire states, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, all of them. And here's what nobody's talking about yet, the part that will shock you at minute 5 of this video. Some of you will be without power for more than a week. Not days, a week. And the temperatures behind this storm? We're talking single digits as far south as Tennessee. The freezing line will drop all the way to Florida. But first, let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a winter storm that required hurricane hunters to investigate it? Take a guess. I'll tell you in just a moment. But here's your reward for staying with me these first 30 seconds. By the time this storm is done, someone is getting 20 inches of snow. 20. And that's just the snow side of this. The ice side? We need to talk about that right now. Comment below where you're watching from. Seriously, drop your city or state in the comments, and I'll do my best to get you a specific forecast for your area. We're building a community here, and I want to make sure you're prepared. Now, here's what's happening in the atmosphere right now, and why this storm is like nothing we've seen this century. We have 2 massive systems about to collide. Think of it like this. You've got one stream of air coming up from the subtropics, loaded with moisture and warmth from the Gulf. Then, you've got another stream diving down from the Arctic, carrying brutal cold. These two are going to meet, and when they do, the energy release will be catastrophic. Here's the twist. The exact location where they meet will determine whether you get snow, ice, or both. And right now, the models are still shifting. Just this morning, we saw a trend north. This afternoon, we've stabilized. But that doesn't mean you're safe. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Greenville, South Carolina, or Little Rock, Arkansas. Right now, you're watching this thinking, okay, winter storm, I've seen those before, but here's what's different. This isn't your typical southern winter storm where everything melts the next day. The temperature after this storm? Monday night, we're looking at teens in North Carolina. Single digits in Tennessee, and it stays that way through Wednesday. That means whatever falls, whether it's snow or ice, it's staying on the ground for days. Days. Think about what that means. Your power lines coated in ice, tree branches snapping under the weight, roads impassable. And no, you can't just drive carefully in ice. You can navigate snow if you're cautious. But ice? Forget it. Especially in the South where nobody has chains or winter tires. Now let me show you something that should make you sit up straight. The National Weather Service doesn't issue watches lightly. They've blanketed the entire state of Tennessee, the entire state of Kentucky, the entire state of Arkansas, all of upstate South Carolina. Charlotte's in it now. Major cities. We're talking about population centers that rarely see this kind of threat. And here's a number that should shock you. This could be the biggest storm some of you have seen since the year 2000. 25 years. A quarter century. Let that sink in. But wait, there's more to this story. Remember those hurricane hunters I mentioned? They're being sent out to sample these systems because we don't have enough data. Why? Because parts of these storm systems are forming over the open ocean and remote areas where we don't launch weather balloons. We're essentially flying blind in some respects, which is why the models have been shifting. This is unprecedented for winter weather. Think about that. We use hurricane hunters for tropical systems, for hurricanes. Now we're using them to investigate a winter storm. That tells you everything you need to know about how serious this is. Now, here's where it gets complicated, and this is important. Some of you are going to hear snow and think, great, a snow day, build a snowman, have some fun. Stop right there. A huge portion of this storm's impact zone isn't getting snow. They're getting ice, freezing rain, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing, fun about ice. You can't play in ice. You can't build anything with ice. You can't even walk on it safely. What you can do is lose power, lose heat, and become trapped in your house. And when I say trapped, I mean it. You won't be able to drive anywhere. You won't be able to walk anywhere safely. And if a tree falls on your power line, you might be sitting in the dark and cold for a week. Let me give you some specifics, because I promised you real information you can use. If you're in Charlotte, in upstate South Carolina, in southern Arkansas, in northern Louisiana, in Dallas, in Fort Worth, this is primarily an ice event for you. The snow will be secondary. But if you're further north, into the Ohio Valley, into the higher elevations, you're looking at all snow. And not just a few inches. We're talking potentially historic snowfall, 1 foot, 18 inches. Some locations could see 20 inches. 20 inches of snow is what you'd get if you took what would have been 2 inches of rain and converted it all to powder. That's the moisture content we're dealing with here. Now let me tell you about the setup, because understanding this will help you understand why this is so dangerous. We have what's called a Baja low forming. That's a low-pressure system that's going to come ashore around the Baja, California area. Once it comes ashore, probably overnight Friday, that's when we'll know a lot more. But here's the problem. By the time we know more, it might be too late to prepare. That's why you need to prepare now. Today. Not tomorrow. Not Friday. Today. What does preparation look like? I'm going to walk you through this step by step. Step 1. Water. You need at least 1 gallon per person per day for a week. That's 7 gallons per person. If you have a family of 4, that's 28 gallons. I know that sounds like a lot, but if your pipes freeze and you have no power to pump water, you'll wish you had more. Step 2. Food. Non-perishable items that don't require cooking. Protein bars, canned goods, peanut butter, crackers. Things you can eat cold if necessary. Because if you lose power, your electric stove won't work. Step 3. Heat. If you have a fireplace, stock up on firewood now. If you have a generator, test it today. Make sure it works. Check your fuel. If you don't have either, think about which room in your house you can seal off to conserve heat. Blankets, sleeping bags, extra layers of clothing. Step 4. Medications. If you or anyone in your family takes prescription medications, make sure you have at least a week's supply. Call your pharmacy now. Step 5. Cash. If power goes out, ATMs won't work. Credit card machines won't work. Have cash on hand. Step 6. Communication. Charge all your devices. Get a battery pack or 2. Make sure you can stay informed even if the power goes out. Step 7. Your car. Fill up your gas tank today, all the way. Don't wait until Friday when everyone else has the same idea. Now here's something most people don't think about. If you have elderly neighbors, check on them. If you have neighbors with small children, check on them. This is the kind of event where community matters, where looking out for each other could literally save lives. And speaking of lives, let's talk about the real danger here. It's not just the inconvenience. People die in ice storms. They die from carbon monoxide poisoning when they try to heat their homes with generators inside. They die from hypothermia when they lose heat and don't have a backup plan. They die in car accidents when they think they can navigate icy roads. Don't become a statistic. If you lose power, do not, and I cannot stress this enough, do not run a generator inside your house, inside your garage, or within 20 feet of any window or door. Carbon monoxide is odorless. It's colorless, and it's deadly. If you must go outside during the storm, layer up. Hypothermia can set in faster than you think, especially if you get wet. And please, please do not drive unless it's an absolute emergency. I know you think you're a good driver. I know you think you can handle it, but ice doesn't care about your driving skills. Ice doesn't care about your four-wheel drive. Ice is ice, and it's unforgiving. Now, let me show you what the models are saying, because this is where things get really interesting. We have 2 main models we look at. The GFS, that's the American model, and the European model. The GFS has been showing a bit more snow further south and a bit less freezing rain. That's the more optimistic model if you're hoping for snow instead of ice. But here's the thing. The European model has been more accurate lately, and it's showing something different. The European is showing the 2 streams of energy linking up earlier. That means the storm gets stronger, faster, and it overrides some of the cold air with warm air aloft. That warm air aloft is what creates freezing rain instead of snow. So, while you might have cold air at the surface, if there's warm air a few thousand feet up, the snow melts on the way down, then refreezes when it hits the cold surface. That's how you get ice. And the European ensembles, those are the more reliable long-term models. They're showing significant ice accumulation from Texas all the way through the Carolinas. How much ice are we talking about? In some areas, we could see over an inch of ice accumulation. Now, you might think, an inch doesn't sound like much. But an inch of ice on a power line, on a tree branch, that's catastrophic. A quarter inch of ice can snap branches. A half inch can bring down power lines. An inch? That's utility workers telling you it might be a week before they can get to you. Because here's what happens. The ice doesn't just affect your street. It affects the entire grid. Trees fall on lines miles away from you. Transformers blow. Substations fail. And utility crews can't even get out to fix things until the ice melts or until they can safely navigate the roads. And remember what I told you about the temperatures? This ice isn't melting Monday. It's not melting Tuesday. Wednesday? Maybe we start to see some improvement in the deep south, but further north? You're looking at the end of the week. Now here's the part I promised you at the beginning, the part that's going to shock you. Some areas are going to see both significant ice and significant snow, not one or the other. Both? Imagine this scenario. You're in the mountains of North Carolina. The storm starts Saturday morning with snow, heavy snow. You get 6 inches in a few hours. Then the warm air aloft catches up, and that snow changes to freezing rain. Now you've got ice coating everything. Then the cold air wins the battle again, and it changes back to snow. By the time the storm is over Sunday, you've got 8 inches of snow with a thick layer of ice in the middle, then another 6 inches of snow on top. That's 14 inches of snow with an ice layer sandwiched in between. And that ice layer? It makes snow removal nearly impossible. Your snowplow can't push through ice. Your shovel can't break through ice. You're stuck. Let me give you the timeline, because I know you're wondering when exactly this is going to hit. Friday, the energy starts to come together. Friday night, the storm begins to form over Texas. By Saturday morning, we're seeing the first impacts across Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. By Saturday afternoon, it spreads into Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi. By Saturday night, the Carolinas start to see it. By Sunday morning, Virginia is getting hit hard. By Sunday afternoon, the storm is at its peak across the entire region. Monday morning, the storm finally starts to move away. But the damage is done, and the cold air behind it, that's just settling in. So you've got about 72 hours from right now until this starts. 72 hours to prepare. That's 3 days. And trust me, those 3 days are going to fly by. Now, I want to address something I'm seeing a lot of on social media. People saying, oh, the models keep changing, so maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe it'll miss us. Maybe it'll fall apart. Stop. That kind of thinking is dangerous. Yes, the models have been shifting, but they're not shifting toward this storm falling apart. They're shifting in terms of where exactly the worst impacts will be. Every single model shows a major winter storm. Every single one shows millions of people being affected. Every single one shows significant ice and snow. The question isn't if this storm is going to happen. The question is exactly where the bullseye will be. And even if you're not in the bullseye, you're going to feel this. Think of it like a hurricane. Even if you're not in the path of the eye, you still get tropical storm force winds. You still get rain. You still get impacts. This is the same concept. Here's another thing to consider. Your local power company is already preparing. They're bringing in crews from other states. They're staging equipment. They're getting ready for a multi-day, possibly multi-week restoration effort. That should tell you something. These companies don't spend money bringing in outside crews unless they know it's going to be bad. They don't stage equipment across multiple states unless they're expecting widespread outages. They're preparing for the worst, and so should you. Now let me talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in these situations. Mental preparation. Being without power for a week, being stuck in your house, not being able to go anywhere, that's mentally challenging, especially if you're used to being active. Used to going out. Used to staying connected. Have a plan for that too. Books to read. Board games to play. Ways to stay occupied that don't require electricity. Check on your mental health, just like you check on your physical health. Isolation and stress can take a toll. And if you have kids, make it an adventure for them. Build a fort in the living room. Tell stories by flashlight. Make it memorable for the right reasons, not the scary ones. Here's something else that's important: pets. If you have pets, they need preparation too. Food, water, medications. If it's cold enough that you're worried about heat, they are too. Bring them inside. Make sure they have warm places to sleep. If you have outdoor animals, shelter them as best you can. Now, let's talk about what happens after the storm. Because the storm itself is only part of the story. The aftermath is just as important. If you lose power and it's below freezing, your pipes can freeze. When pipes freeze, they can burst. When they burst, you have water damage on top of everything else. So if you know you're going to lose power and temperatures are going to drop into the teens, consider shutting off your water at the main valve and draining your pipes. I know that sounds extreme, but a burst pipe can cause thousands of dollars in damage. It's better to be proactive. Also, if you have a well, you need power to pump water. So even if your pipes don't freeze, you won't have water without power. Another reason to stock up now. Here's the financial impact you might not be thinking about. If you're hourly and you can't get to work for a week, that's a week without pay. If you're self-employed, same thing. If you have to throw out all the food in your refrigerator and freezer, that's a couple $100s. If you need a hotel because you can't stay in your house without heat, that's hundreds more. This storm has the potential to be a financial disaster for a lot of families. Plan for that. Have an emergency fund if you can. Cut back on unnecessary expenses now to give yourself a buffer. And here's something I bet you haven't thought about. School closures. If you have kids in school, they're probably going to be out for at least a week. Do you have childcare arranged if you absolutely have to work? Do you have activities planned to keep them occupied? Do you have their schoolwork so they don't fall behind? These are the practical, everyday implications that people don't think about until it's too late. Now, here's the best-case scenario. The storm shifts further north than expected. The ice band narrows. The temperatures don't drop as much as forecast. You prepared for nothing. Your garage has extra water and food, and you don't need it. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. That water and food doesn't go bad. You'll use it eventually. And you'll have peace of mind knowing that if something else happens, you're ready. But here's the worst-case scenario. And I want you to really think about this. The storm tracks further south than expected. Instead of a glancing blow, you take a direct hit. Instead of an inch of ice, you get 2 inches. Instead of being without power for 3 days, it's 10 days. And you didn't prepare because you thought it might miss you. Which scenario would you rather be in? I'll tell you right now, I'd rather over-prepare and not need it than under-prepare and suffer the consequences. Here's another twist in this storm. The timing. This is happening on a weekend. That means government offices are closed. That means a lot of businesses are closed. That means if you need something Saturday or Sunday, you're out of luck. So Friday is your last chance to get everything you need. And Friday, everyone else is going to have the same idea. The grocery stores are going to be packed. The gas stations are going to have lines. The hardware stores are going to be sold out of generators and flashlights. Don't wait until Friday. Do it today. Do it now. Let me give you one more specific piece of information. The National Weather Service has issued winter storm watches. Those will likely be upgraded to warnings by Friday. When that happens, the threat is imminent. Watches mean conditions are favorable. Warnings mean it's happening or about to happen. If you wait until the warnings are issued, you've waited too long. Now, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind. Community resilience. In events like this, communities that pull together fare better than communities where everyone is isolated. Check on your neighbors. Share resources if you can. If you have a generator and your neighbor doesn't, maybe they can store their medications in your fridge. If you have a fireplace and they don't, maybe they can warm up in your house for a few hours. We're all in this together. And in times like this, that's not just a saying. That's a necessity. Here's another practical tip. Document everything. If you have damage, take photos. If you have to throw out food, keep receipts. If you have to stay in a hotel, keep receipts. Some of this might be covered by insurance. Some of it might be tax deductible as a disaster loss. But you need documentation. Also, if you lose power, report it to your utility company. Don't assume they know. Multiple reports help them prioritize areas for restoration. And while we're talking about utilities, charge your phone before the storm. Then put it on low power mode and use it sparingly. Your phone is your lifeline to the outside world if you lose power. Don't waste the battery scrolling through social media. Now let's talk about the Arctic air that's coming behind this storm, because that's the part that's going to make this linger. By Monday night, temperatures drop into the teens across North Carolina, single digits in Tennessee. The freezing line extends all the way to Florida, and it stays that way through Tuesday and Wednesday. What does that mean? It means if you get ice on Saturday, that ice is still there Wednesday. It means if you get snow on Sunday, that snow is still there Thursday. It means power restoration takes longer because crews are working in dangerous conditions. It means road clearing takes longer because the chemicals they use don't work as well in extreme cold. This isn't a quick-hit storm. This is a prolonged event with prolonged impacts. And here's something else to think about. Wildlife, deer, birds, other animals are going to be struggling too. If you can, put out some food for them. I know that seems like a small thing compared to everything else, but it matters. Now, let me break down exactly what different areas can expect, because I know you want specifics. If you're in Texas, particularly Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, you're looking at a primarily ice event. Starting Friday night into Saturday morning, expect significant ice accumulation. We're talking potentially over ½ an inch in some areas. Power outages are likely. Plan for at least 3 to 5 days without power. If you're in Louisiana, Arkansas, same story. Ice is your main concern. Northern parts of these states might see some snow mixed in, but ice will dominate. The further south you are, the more ice you'll see. If you're in Tennessee, Kentucky, you're in a transition zone. Western parts will see more ice. Eastern parts, especially higher elevations, will see more snow. Middle areas will see a mix. This is the zone where you could get that sandwich effect I talked about. Snow, then ice, then snow. If you're in the Carolinas, particularly Charlotte and the Piedmont region, you're also in that transition zone. Current models suggest significant ice, potentially historic ice, followed by some snow. The mountains will see mostly snow. The coast might escape with just rain. But the I-85 corridor? You're in the danger zone. If you're in Virginia, particularly southwestern Virginia, heavy snow is more likely. We're talking 1 to 2 feet in higher elevations. The I-81 corridor will see significant accumulations. Richmond and areas east might see less, but still expect impacts. Now, these forecasts can still shift, but the overall pattern is set. Somebody is getting hammered. The question is just exactly who gets the worst of it. Let me address one more thing that I'm seeing in the comments and on social media. People asking, should I evacuate? Here's my take. If you're in a rural area with spotty power infrastructure, if you have medical needs that require electricity, if you have small children or elderly family members who are vulnerable to cold, and you have somewhere safe to go, then yes, consider leaving before the storm hits. But if you're in an urban or suburban area with generally reliable infrastructure, evacuation is probably overkill. You're better off sheltering in place with proper supplies. The key is proper supplies. If you evacuate, you're fine. If you stay without supplies, you're in trouble. If you stay with supplies, you're also fine. But if you evacuate without planning where you're going and the roads become impassable, now you're in danger on the road. So make smart decisions. Don't panic, but don't be complacent either. Here's something else to think about. After the storm, there's going to be a lot of information and a lot of misinformation. Stick to official sources for updates. Your local National Weather Service office. Your local power company. Local emergency management. Don't rely on random social media posts for critical information. And speaking of information, I'll be providing updates as this storm develops. Make sure you're following for the latest. Drop that comment with your location so I can prioritize which areas to focus on in the next update. Now let's talk about the broader implications of this storm. This isn't just a weather event. This is an economic event. When millions of people lose power, when roads become impassable, when businesses can't operate, that has ripple effects. Supply chains get disrupted, deliveries get delayed, stores run out of stock, and it takes weeks, sometimes months, for everything to get back to normal. So even if you're not directly in the impact zone, you might feel the effects indirectly. Shortages of certain products, delays in shipments, price increases as demand outpaces supply. This is why preparation matters on a macro level, not just a micro level. The more people who are prepared, the less strain on the system, the less strain on emergency services, the better everyone fares. Now, I know I've thrown a lot at you in this video. I know it's overwhelming. I know some of you are scared. That's natural. That's human. But fear without action is paralyzing. Fear with action is motivating. So take that fear and channel it into preparation. Make your list. Check it twice. Get it done. And then take a breath. You've done what you can do. You're ready. And that's all anyone can ask. Here's my final message to you. This storm is coming. We can't stop it. We can't divert it. What we can do is prepare for it. What we can do is look out for each other. What we can do is get through it together. Mother Nature is powerful, but human resilience is more powerful. We've weathered storms before. We'll weather this one too. Stay informed, stay prepared, stay safe. And one more time, drop your location in the comments. Let's build this community. Let's help each other, because that's what we do. That's who we are. The storm is coming, but we're ready.